Breaking tonight, 60 million on alert as dangerous storms charge east. Destructive twisters tearing across the Midwest, homes and businesses ripped apart. Drivers trapped in chest-high floodwaters. Now the East Coast blasted with torrential rains. Where the flood risk is headed next, Bill Cairns standing by. Also breaking, the deadly shootout in Canada. Video showing what appears to be an armed suspect dressed in camo, a police officer killed and a civilian caught in the crossfire. The new details just in. New developments in the Nancy Guthrie case, the chilling claim that was in the second note to the family. Video of a Tesla crashing into a home, killing a woman inside. The driver blames the car's automated driver assist program. The federal investigation just launched. Dramatic video of a teen launched from a jet ski after it exploded into flames. How she survived that blast. Wild video of a bull on the loose, throwing people into the air. The chaos it caused in the streets. And remembering music mogul Clive Davis, the hit-making record producer behind Whitney Houston, Bruce Springsteen, and countless others, how he changed the course of music. Plus, AI household staff. We speak to one mom with a team of AI agents running her home. Top story starts right now. Hi there, good evening. I'm Ryan Nobles in tonight for Tom. And as we come on the air, severe summer storms slamming the East Coast. Tens of millions on alert for life-threatening flash floods as another tornado outbreak in the Midwest turns deadly. Violent tornadoes ripping through the heartland overnight, killing at least 2 people in Illinois. Eyewitness video capturing the moment debris is sent flying in that violent twister. This is the aftermath in Illinois. Cars flipped over, trees ripped in half. The state breaking its annual tornado record, and we're just halfway through the year. Similar scenes in Indiana, cars crushed under debris, entire storefronts ripped off. And in the south, heavy rain submerging parts of Lexington, Kentucky. Rescue crews wading through waist-deep water. The rain showing no signs of stopping. Alabama hit with a torrential downpour. And right now, all eyes on the Northeast, a water-filled parking lot in New Jersey, and howling wind and rain in Philadelphia. Our Bill Cairns is standing by right now to track where the threat is headed next. But we're going to begin tonight with Emily Akeda as New York braces for a potential flood emergency.
Tonight, a dangerous deluge of wind and rain bearing down on tens of millions and pressing eastward. Emergency crews waded through water to evacuate residents as floodwaters rose in this Kentucky neighborhood today.
I take a look to my right, and everybody's car's underwater.
The deadly stretch of storms lighting up the sky and spawning massive tornadoes.
Holy cow.
In Indiana, calls flooded Evansville police and fire overnight, where storefronts were peeled off and neighborhoods clobbered. Daylight revealing the extent of the damage.
Very violent, very, very violent.
2 people died in Jefferson County after a barrage of suspected tornadoes tore through Illinois Sunday.
Oh my God.
Massive funnels caught on camera and seen throwing debris. The state has nearly 200 tornado reports so far in 2026, breaking its annual record just halfway through the year. Across the Northeast, there are concerns for flash flooding, with the potential for 1 to 2 inches of rain an hour, with the sweeping storm threat not over yet.
And Emily Akeda joins us now from the rain in New York. So, Emily, we can see those storm clouds have rolled in behind you. What is the scene like?
Yeah, that's right, Ryan. Those storm clouds really starting to obscure the George Washington Bridge behind me. Traffic slowed to a crawl, making for a messy evening commute across much of the Northeast. The weather also proving problematic at so many major airports today, causing ground stops and delays from D.C. all the way up to Boston. There have already been more than 6,000 delays today across the U.S. At LaGuardia Airport, nearly a third of flights have been delayed with more rain coming overnight, Ryan.
Okay, Emily Akeda, stay safe out there. Let's now get to NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns. Bill, it is going to be a messy commute home in the Northeast. We saw some pretty torrential rain here in Washington, D.C. Track out the rest of the night for us.
Yeah, Ryan, up till about an hour ago, this has been just a big inconvenience. But now we're actually hearing about a possible tornado in Burke, Virginia, to the southwest of downtown D.C. by about 45 minutes or so. And there's just trees that are all just sheared off. We haven't seen a lot of significant damage to homes, but power lines are down. And so that's kind of the threat. Isolated tornado through the rest of this evening, and down tree limbs is probably the biggest risk, mostly in North Carolina, now in Virginia. The airports, any summer thunderstorm that goes through, it's going to look like this, and this has been pretty bad. Ground stops because of the storms currently. D.C., Baltimore, Philly's at 75, still a ground stop in New York, and the storms haven't been with us in a while. JFK's about 45, and even Boston Logan still about 75-minute delays. Here's the radar from Washington, D.C., right here, and Burke, Virginia is located right here just outside the Beltway, so that's where the possible tornado was. Notice the worst of these storms are now heading out towards the Delmarva. Up to the north, World Cup match still suspended because of thunderstorms that have been rolling in and out of Philadelphia. One just exited. You notice this little one bubbling up to the south. So it's an open-air stadium, so if any lightning, obviously, they can't be playing the match. So that's probably going to be at least another half hour till they can resume. Further to the south, we do have a tornado warning near Dalton, Georgia. This is radar indicated, not on the ground, but it just shows you every up and down the East Coast as the storm system kicks through. Isolated severe storms. We even got a tornado warning not far from Pueblo, Colorado, with some storms coming out of the Rockies, too. Flash flooding. We've made it through this event so far without anything really bad. We do have a couple flash flood warnings south of Pittsburgh, numerous areas around Trenton, New Jersey now under flash flood warnings. That's kind of the worst of it. A lot of the other flood watches are slowly being dropped. Tomorrow, the risk is less. 6 million people coming out of Colorado into areas of Kansas. And we still have those heat headlines, too. That'll be one of the big stories towards the end of the week, Ryan, when our friends in Phoenix hit a lovely 115 degrees later this week.
They'll tell us it's a dry heat. All right. Thank you, Bill. We appreciate it. Tonight, we do have some new reporting on the search for Nancy Guthrie, who was abducted from her home nearly 5 months ago. NBC News now has more information on the investigation, including the contents of one of the notes sent to media outlets following her disappearance. Here's Liz Kreutz.
Tonight, for the first time, NBC News is reporting new details about one of 2 notes sent to media outlets regarding Nancy Guthrie's abduction. According to 3 people familiar with the matter, the second note indicated the 84-year-old had died. It did not contain an apology or any request for payment for the release of her body. After that note was sent, Savannah and her siblings posted this message.
We received your message, and we understand. We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
That note was sent just days after media outlets received an alleged ransom note saying Nancy was safe and demanding cryptocurrency in exchange for her release. Investigators involved in the case believe the notes are potentially credible, a sentiment shared by Savannah.
There are a lot of different notes, I think, that came, and I think most of them, it's my understanding, are not real. I believe the 2 notes that we received, that we responded to, I tend to believe those are real.
Months later, investigators are still trying to identify this masked man seen on Nancy's Nest camera the night she was taken. The Pima County Sheriff's Office says Google, which owns Nest, has retrieved hundreds of other images from cameras around her house, but nothing more showing anything suspicious.
And Liz Kreutz joins me now. So, Liz, what does this mean as far as the investigation goes?
Hey, Ryan. Well, unfortunately, not much. Bottom line, this case is still unsolved. There are no new developments. There's been no major break in this case. The family, Savannah, says they are still in agony, just waiting, hoping for answers. And a reminder that the family is still offering that $1 million reward for any information that leads to Nancy. Ryan.
All right, Liz, thank you so much for that. Now to the deadly shooting in Canada, a gunman opening fire on police officers and civilians in Montreal. Aaron McLaughlin has the video, which we want to warn some may find disturbing.
Tonight, chilling footage shows the dramatic final moments when a gunman opened fire on police and bystanders in Montreal.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!
The video's so graphic, we cannot show you most of it. You see an officer shot, another officer crouching for cover, gun drawn, as shots ring out. In a separate video, you hear a terrified eyewitness.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God!
You see a bystander drop to the ground, the body of the police officer nearby. What appears to be the suspect, wearing camouflage and armed with a rifle, rushes toward the other officer. The suspect eventually shot dead. Montreal police say officers had responded to a 911 call of shots fired and a gun protruding from the window of a hotel. Officials say the suspect opened fire on police when they arrived. They say an officer and bystander were killed. Eyewitness Heidi Doctor's 2 kids were getting a haircut nearby.
Nauseous. I mean, knowing that my son literally was on his scooter on that street with no protection other than a helmet and was minutes from when the shootings took place, I haven't processed it yet.
Police have yet to release the names of the victims. Tonight, Canada's second largest city reeling.
And Erin McLaughlin joins us now. So, Erin, do we have any information at all on the identities of the victims or the suspect?
At this point, Ryan, authorities have yet to name the suspect. They've also yet to name the 2 victims. They remain very tight-lipped, pointing to this ongoing independent investigation into what exactly unfolded there in Montreal. We are getting an update about a second officer who was shot. We understand, according to authorities, that she is in critical but stable condition. No word if that is the other officer you see crouching in that video. Ryan.
Okay, Erin McLaughlin, thank you for that. Now to Kansas City and the latest in a multi-day manhunt. Today, law enforcement returning to the home of the suspect they say went on a deadly shooting spree along a busy road just before a World Cup match last week. According to authorities, he opened fire at 5 locations across the city, killing 1 person and injuring 4 others. I want to bring in Maggie Vespa now, who's been tracking this investigation for us. So, Maggie, what do we know about what brought SWAT teams to that home, and did they find anything?
Ryan, we don't know if they found anything. This happened just in the last few hours. In fact, that video, if we can pull it back up, we just got it into our newsroom. Basically, Kansas City police leading this investigation, saying those SWAT teams that you see in that video returning to that home in Independence, Missouri, to try and find evidence to help them track down the suspect in this shooting spree. 22-year-old Oscar Sanchez Munoz, who again is the person who they believe carried out that spree at 5 locations along that busy highway last Tuesday. So a week ago tomorrow, just before the Argentina-Algeria World Cup game, the first World Cup match in Kansas City. By the way, my producer and I just talked to the neighbor who filmed that video. He's afraid for his own safety, knowing that his neighbor, police believe, was involved in this. And he says he's talked to his neighbor before. He knows Sanchez Munoz, just kind of talking as 2 neighbors in passing. He says, I've never had any interaction with him that makes me concerned for my safety or concerned for his mental health. He says this is all incredibly shocking to him, but all the more shocking as he sees these headlines unfold. The FBI, Ryan, offering a $25,000 reward for information that leads to Sanchez Munoz's arrest and warning people he's to be considered armed and dangerous and not to approach him.
So he's still very much on the loose, but there was some confusion today about a report that the search might be over. What happened there?
Yeah, this raised so many eyebrows. Frankly, I'll be real, Ryan, this was such a mess. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche went on Fox News this morning and said live on the air that he believed that authorities had tracked the suspect to a home in Missouri. It's unclear if he was referring to the one in that video. And then he said, and I want to read his direct quote here. He said, "You saw he's out there allegedly just shooting multiple different places, and you have somebody dead, and so hopefully we got him." Again, one of the 5 victims, an Uber driver, was killed in this shooting spree. So it's unclear if he was referring to the victim or to Sanchez Munoz. The anchor followed up and said, does that mean that you believe the suspect is dead? And Acting Attorney General Blanche basically said, we believe so, but we're hoping to confirm. That prompted responses from Kansas City police, who said, if that's true, no one's told us, basically. And they later confirmed today that they have not found their suspect, dead or alive. So the search is very much still ongoing, Ryan.
That's got to make a lot of people nervous there. All right, Maggie Vespa, thank you so much for that. Here in Washington, Vice President J.D. Vance returning tonight from the first round of peace talks with Iran. NBC News learning more about tense moments during those critical meetings. Garrett Haig has this one.
Tonight, Vice President J.D. Vance returning to the U.S., touting a so-called roadmap for further peace talks with the Iranian regime.
This is laying a foundation for what could be a truly transformed Middle East, but we haven't built the house yet.
Saying Iran agreed to allow UN nuclear inspectors back into their country, and diplomatic mechanisms were created to ensure Iran will keep the Strait of Hormuz open.
We have an open strait, and we have a country that will never have a nuclear weapon.
The national average for gas dropping to $3.87 a gallon, and oil now down to $75 a barrel. And in a move that could net billions of dollars for the Iranian regime, for the next 60 days, the Trump administration will allow Iran to sell oil freely on the open market and take payment in dollars for the first time in decades. While President Trump saying if any Iranian funds are unfrozen in the future, Iran would have to buy American agriculture.
They're buying it exclusively from us. Corn, soybeans, should be a lot of money.
But the deal to stop the war and start these talks still sparking significant skepticism from key Trump allies and former officials.
Is the MOU problematic? Yeah. I'd rather try diplomacy than take it off the table.
Do you support this deal?
Well, look, I like the fact that we've extended the ceasefire. I like the fact that the strait is being opened up. There are many of the points that I have serious questions about and concerns about.
And Garrett Hick joins us now live from the White House. So, Garrett, we are starting to finally see gas prices come down tonight, which is getting are we getting more positive developments in the Strait of Hormuz as well?
Well, it looks that way, Ryan. According to a tracking agency, S&P Global Intelligence, 15 tankers passed through the strait today. It may not sound like a lot, but it's the most in a single day since the war began. So we're still not up to the pre-war numbers, but it does show that, especially after some tense moments at this weekend's talks, the standoff in the strait, at least, appears to be thawing. Ryan?
Okay. Garrett Hick, live at the White House. Garrett, thank you for that. Next tonight, we remember Alan Greenspan, the influential economist who chaired the Federal Reserve for 2 decades and the beloved husband of our NBC colleague, Andrea Mitchell. He died at 100 years old from complications of Parkinson's disease. NBC's Kelly O'Donnell takes a look back at his legacy.
His words moved markets and shaped a long season of American prosperity.
My job was, what do I worry about tomorrow?
Alan Greenspan served as chairman of the Federal Reserve for nearly 2 decades through 4 presidencies. Nominated by President Reagan in 1987.
Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Alan Greenspan back to official service to his country.
Appointed again by a Democrat, President Bill Clinton.
During his tenure, he has inspired confidence, and for good reason.
And in 2005, honored with the Medal of Freedom by George W. Bush.
The era of Chairman Greenspan will always be known as one of phenomenal economic growth.
Greenspan said he intentionally made his public statements hard to interpret.
The housing market in the United States is quite heterogeneous.
Greenspan stands out in public life now for his willingness to admit mistakes. A housing bubble he did not foresee, opposition to certain regulations that hastened the financial crisis of 2008.
The crisis, however, has turned out to be much broader than anything I could have imagined.
Though he held a doctorate in economics, his early years were invested in music, studying clarinet and piano. He became a professional musician.
The most important economic decision that I made was to leave the music business.
The chairman was also a partner to Andrea Mitchell for more than 42 years, married since 1997, sharing their own irrational exuberance.
If the nation can balance its budget, so can Andrea.
Today, Andrea said he will be remembered for his brilliance and his kindness. Alan Greenspan, a century of life, a career of consequence. Kelly O'Donnell, NBC News, Washington.
And he will be missed. We are back in a moment with disturbing video of a Tesla crashing into a home, why the feds are now investigating tonight, and the massive roadside blast as a fireworks stand goes up in flames. We'll show you that scene, I should say, ahead on Top Story. Now to the fatal crash involving a Tesla. The driver telling police he was using an automated driving assistance system when he crashed into a home, killing a 76-year-old grandmother who was inside. And late tonight, we're hearing from Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Aaron Gilchrist has the details.
Tonight, this fatal Tesla crash now the focus of a federal traffic safety investigation. A doorbell camera capturing the moments before a Tesla Model 3 slams into a home in Katy, Texas. Police say 76-year-old Martha Avila was standing in her front room when the accident happened Friday night.
That's where my mom was.
Officials say she was flown to the hospital where she was pronounced dead.
This is how it came in.
Her family sharing videos from inside the home on Facebook showing the devastation left behind.
This is their room where they play and they do homework. Everything got damaged.
The driver, Michael Butler, told authorities he was using an automated driving assistance system at the time of the crash, but it's not clear which specific feature the driver had engaged.
We're still evaluating what caused that car to fail to control its speed just before this crash.
Tesla's Model 3s come equipped with traffic-aware cruise control, which maintains a set driving speed and following distance. Drivers can also subscribe to FSD, or full self-driving mode, that has automated stopping and turning. Both modes are intended for use by a fully attentive driver, according to Tesla's website. Earlier this year, Tesla officially discontinued autopilot in the U.S., a different feature that has been linked to deadly incidents.
Right there in the bushes.
Last year, a federal jury found Tesla partly liable in a 2019 Florida car crash that killed a pedestrian and left another person badly injured when the car was in autopilot mode. Tesla has not responded to multiple requests for comment on this crash.
And Aaron Gilchrist joins us now. I mean, this story is a nightmare on many levels, Aaron. And as you say in your piece, there was no official statement from Tesla, but we do know that Elon Musk is posting about this now.
Yeah, in the last hour or so, Musk responded to a posted headline on X, and we can show you what he had to say in response to this headline about this crash having happened. He wrote, "Yes, this makes no sense. FSD, or the full self-driving feature that the Teslas have, drives slowly through neighborhood streets, and this was a high-speed crash." And then just below that, there was a response to Musk's post by another leader at Tesla, a gentleman who develops a lot of the AI technology for Tesla. He said, "Yep, in this case, the driver manually overrode self-driving by pressing the accelerator all the way to 100% of the accelerator pedal in this residential area. They reached a speed of 73 miles per hour during the crash and had the accelerator pressed even after the crash." Obviously, this is not coming through an official channel of communication from leaders at Tesla, Ryan, but it's something that, of course, is raising questions about who exactly was responsible or what was responsible for this crash that ended up killing a grandmother.
Yeah, he seems to be speaking about it as if they have that data and information. It would be interesting to see if they'll present that, if there becomes some sort of an investigation or trial. But let's talk more about the Tesla driver and what type of charges he could face.
Yeah, at this point, we know that the driver in this accident was hurt pretty badly. He was taken to the hospital by ambulance. We haven't gotten an update on his condition or whether he was quickly released from the hospital. We also, at this point, there are no charges that have been filed against him in this accident. The sheriff's office in Harris County, Texas, just outside, happened just outside Houston, did say that they are trying to talk to people who are knowledgeable about Teslas to try to get a better understanding of the automated features of these vehicles so that they can continue their investigation. And we noted as well, Ryan, that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has said it is launching a special investigation, a special crash investigation is what they call it, to try to figure out exactly what happened here, whether this was something that was mostly human error or human responsibility, or was a fault of the vehicle that was involved here, Ryan.
Well, there's no doubt that that car was moving at a very high rate of speed. The video clearly demonstrates that. Aaron, thanks for being on top of it. We appreciate it. Coming up, the wild scene on the water. A jet ski exploding, sending a girl flying in the air. That dramatic video and how she's doing tonight. Plus, the close call at one of the nation's busiest airports. Two planes nearly colliding on the runway. What went wrong? Stay with us. Back now with Top Stories news feed, starting in Los Angeles, where the superintendent of the nation's second largest school district has officially resigned. Alberto Carvalho stepping down months after he was placed on administrative leave following an FBI raid at his home and office. It happened back in February. The agency still has not said what it's investigating, but Carvalho has denied any wrongdoing. And take a look at this intense video out of Texas. A teen sent flying into the air when her jet ski exploded. Police say it happened last week as she was trying to fill it up with gas. You can see that jet ski there on fire. Witnesses told local media they helped pull her from the water onto the dock. Authorities say the teen is expected to be okay. And in Oklahoma, a colorful roadside explosion when a fireworks stand went up in flames. Video from people driving by capturing the scene. No word yet on what caused the blast. First responders say crews quickly got the fire under control and that nobody was hurt. Now to Boston, where the FAA is investigating a close call in which a plane with more than 100 people on board had to abort landing to avoid a possible collision. It's the latest in a string of airplane near misses as the summer travel season kicks into full swing. NBC's Tom Costello covers aviation for us and has the details. So, Tom, what are we learning about what happened here?
Well, this happened on Saturday morning, and it was pretty serious. In fact, it happened at Logan Airport involving a Delta Airlines flight inbound from Dallas and an American Airlines flight preparing to take off to Charlotte. Now, that Delta flight was coming in to land on one runway. The American flight started its takeoff from another intersecting runway, and that forced the Delta pilot to abandon the landing attempt and execute what's called a go-around. He got an alert in the cockpit saying go around. He did. The confusion among the pilots and air traffic control was all caught on tape. Take a listen.
Delta 2361 going around because of American.
American 3161, where you going?
You cleared us for takeoff, 3161.
Yeah, that's kind of critical right there. The controller is asking the American pilot, where are you going? And the pilot says, you just cleared us for takeoff. The evidence suggests that they may have come within 300 feet of each other. That's very close. Delta tells NBC News that their flight crew followed established procedures after the plane systems warned of potential traffic. That flight with 129 passengers, 6 crew members landed safely and everybody deplaned normally. As for the American flight, it continued on to Charlotte. American is referring all comment now to the FAA, which says it's looking into how these two aircraft ended up on a possible collision course. This just in, NTSB is also going to investigate, Ryan.
Am I crazy, Tom? It does feel like we're hearing more and more about these near-miss incidents. Are they happening more frequently?
We've had quite a few just this year alone, right? I mean, you may recall that there were a couple of incidents. We had a Nashville case just a few months ago. Out of Nashville's airport where 2 Southwest planes nearly collided. An air traffic controller gave one of the pilots permission to execute a go-around as they were landing, putting them directly into the path of a departing Southwest plane. Both pilots responded to their onboard TCAS alerts, taking evasive action to avoid a crash. And then the other incident that we talked about, this happened just a couple of days after that at New York's JFK Airport. In fact, there, an American Airlines flight coming into land missed its approach. And then it was coming into land at JFK, missed the approach, and so then it came very dangerously close to an Air Canada regional jet that was also coming into land. So the FAA, Ryan, just today announced it is about to start rolling out a major software upgrade to air traffic control systems nationwide. It's going to start in the fall. It's going to take until the end of 2028. The whole idea is to proactively identify potential risks with traffic congestion, for example, also weather, also runway, identify that in advance and already proactively move planes out of the way of potential conflicts.
We're very lucky that these weren't a lot worse, because this could have been
catastrophic. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Tom, thanks for being on top of it.
Yep, you bet.
Still to come tonight, another major shakeup in the UK. Keir Starmer officially out. What we're learning about the new leader expected to take over. Plus, the record-breaking moment at the World Cup. Messi doing what Messi does. We'll break down all the action, including one squad's surprising Cinderella run. That's next. We're back now with a major political upheaval overseas. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer resigning after a swell of pressure from inside his own party and from President Trump. And NBC's Danielle Hamanjan is following this for us from London tonight. Danielle, it's hard to believe, but this is the 6th UK Prime Minister in just 7 years. What was the tipping point here for Starmer?
There were so many things, but I think the tipping point were local elections held in May, which were seen as a sort of litmus test for Keir Starmer. Local Labour councillors, more than 400 of them losing their job across the country. After that, we saw ministerial resignations, and it became clear that the countdown was on until Keir Starmer's resignation. This was another political earthquake, and we've seen quite a few over the past decade or so since the UK voted to leave the European Union, which is 10 years tomorrow, by the way, which has sort of, highlighted the question here, is this country ungovernable, and why is that? Well, Keir Starmer was elected back in 2024, won a landslide victory, a majority of the seats in Westminster behind me, but did not win the popular vote was quite low, 33% or so, I think. So there were a number of reasons why he was so unpopular. I mean, he was not a great communicator. He was seen as very indecisive. There were policy U-turns. There was, of course, a scandal involving Peter Mandelson, who he appointed as UK ambassador to Washington, knowing he had links to Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, all that, as I say, culminating in those local elections. And then last week, of course, Andy Burnham, remember that name, he won a special election, paving the way now to replace him as Prime Minister of the UK, Ryan.
Of course, it does feel like our heads are spinning with all these new prime ministers in the United Kingdom, but that means that someone else needs to step up. Who should we expect to get the job now, and what could it mean for relations with the United States?
Yes, Andy Burnham. So he is now back in Westminster. He is an MP. He's just been elected as an MP, but not a newcomer to politics, not a newcomer to Westminster. He's served in previous previous Labour prime ministers. Now, the thing with Andy Burnham is that, he has been in politics for many years. He's been called the King of the North for defending northern regions who feel abandoned and neglected by the South. He's been the mayor of Manchester, but as his critics have pointed out, it's one thing to run a city, it's another thing entirely to run a country. What a prime minister Andy Burnham would do in terms of its, the UK's relationship with the US, that remains to be seen. He's not laid out what his foreign policy is going to be, but something tells me that it'll be quite different to that of Keir Starmer, who, by the way, there's already talk of appointing Keir Starmer to foreign minister. It's been a long day. It's not over yet. British politics moves quite quickly, Ryan.
Danielle, thank you so much. Staying overseas with top stories Global Watch, starting with the brutal heat wave sweeping across Europe. In France, authorities say at least 18 people have died, most from reported drownings and heat-related health issues. Many schools there now closed. And in the UK, forecasters say that temperatures are expected to set new records this week, warning that it could impact power and phone services. And a terrifying moment in southwest China when a paraglider got stuck high up in the air after accidentally hitting a construction crane. You can see him dangling from the tower. Unclear exactly how long he was up there for, but local media reports firefighters used a ladder to rescue him safely. And more wild video out of China, this one showing a runaway bull charging down a street, throwing 2 people into the air, leaving them both hurt and sending others scrambling. Police say the bull escaped yesterday from a nearby food market and that they eventually captured it. And here in the States, history made at the World Cup. Soccer superstar Lionel Messi breaking the all-time men's World Cup scoring record today, helping Argentina defeat Austria. For more on the incredible run he is having, I want to bring in Lori Lindsay. She's a soccer analyst and a former member of the U.S. women's national team. Lori, wow. We all knew how great Messi is and the potential for him to be great again in this World Cup. But whether or not he's the greatest of all time, there's no doubt that this feat, being the all-time goal-scoring record in a men's World Cup, this puts him in a league of his own, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, certainly. I mean, yeah, he is remarkable. I mean, to be living in the same era as him playing has just been extraordinary. And to witness what he's done, 5 goals in 2 games in this World Cup is sensational. And it does feel like he is just playing on another level than everybody else. And obviously he's adapted his game and continued to evolve to match where he is and his age. But not only this World Cup, Major League Soccer, which I cover those games as well, we get to see him week in and week out with Inter Miami. So not surprising, but also just extraordinary feat for him. So congratulations to Messi, but also how wonderful it is for us to be witnessing it in what will be his last World Cup.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a soccer expert, but he seems to make it look pretty easy, which I know it's not.
Yeah,
there have been so many great underdog stories in this World Cup. You called the Cape Verde game this week. They pulled out a draw against Uruguay. They're the 3rd smallest country competing, but do they actually have a shot of making it out of the group stage?
Yes, and let's not forget their very first World Cup game, they tied Spain as well. So to tie Spain and hold them scoreless, and then to play Uruguay last night and go up originally, then go down 2-1 late in the first half, and then come back in the second half to tie it 2-2. Also extraordinary. It's just a remarkable story for them to score their first goal in that game, but then also to come back and tie. So this team, I think you cannot underestimate them by any means. We saw what they can do defensively, and they've been able to adapt versus 2 of these top teams. And then 2 top teams, especially Spain, but also Uruguay, we thought were going to be the 1-2 teams in this group. But for them to play Saudi Arabia in their last game, they have the ability to beat them. They could go as the number 2 because Uruguay is going to have to play Spain. And as Spain continues to build into this World Cup, and Uruguay has had some shaky starts, I would give the upper hand obviously to Spain. So for Cape Verde, yes, they absolutely have more than an opportunity and chance to be getting out of their group. And in fact, they could go to number 2 in this group, I believe. So, but extraordinary talent. Defensively, they have been able to adapt and adjust to whatever the 2 teams have thrown at them. But in the attack, wonderful individual skill as well, but then also the ability to combine. So this is definitely a team that we obviously, as huge soccer fans, or myself, don't get to see as often as like the Frances and the Argentinas, England teams that we usually typically see whenever there is an international break for these teams to play. But Cape Verde we're seeing at the world stage, and they've been tremendous so far. A true underdog story. All right, Lori, Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. When we come back, the family that runs its household with a team of AI agents. We'll hear from the mom about how it works and why they turn to the tech. We're back now with the family welcoming AI into their home. They're featured in a New York Magazine article entitled "The Mom Who Runs a Household with a Staff of AI Agents." In it, the mom of 7, Jessie Janae, explains how these AI agents handle everyday tasks like ordering groceries, answering emails, dealing with finances, and even making homeschool lesson plans. And unlike those popular AI chatbots, her team of AI agents act autonomously. For more on how it works, I want to bring in Jessie Janae to hear the story. I have to say, there was a lot of me that was very interested in this article as a dad of 4, not quite 7, but of 4, so I know how hectic a busy household can be. Talk to me about how this idea started, and talk to me about some of the typical things that you use your AI agents for.
So I ran a tech company before, always have loved technology. And as soon as I realized that technology and AI agents could do a lot of the admin that me as a mom, and I actually have 4 bio kids, as a mom, could actually lift off my plate, ordering groceries, doing a lot of the perfunctory things in my day-to-day, such as like calendar work, my mind exploded. I wanted to do everything with AI because all the time I can rescue to actually be with my kids is amazing to me.
So obviously this sounds great, but talk to me a little bit about how you actually make this a reality. Walk us through how you talk to one of your agents to try and solve some of these everyday problems that you and your family deal with.
So currently where we are, there's a decent amount of setup to some of these agent workflows. But for instance, I have set up an agent that can order things for me on Amazon. So after a bit of wiring things together, making sure they have the correct permissions, I can actually make a voice note and say, I'm out of wipes for my baby. And the rest is like not me. So the rest is actually an agent who knows my preferences. All I have to say is I'm out of wipes. I don't have to specify brands. The order actually occurs, and then my agent orders in their own name. My assistant agent is named Claire, and so boxes actually arrive to my house in the name of Claire, and I just get wipes.
Yeah, the New York Magazine article talked about an example of that, about a children's book that was sent to your doorstep that you weren't even expecting, which sounds good, but maybe also a little creepy. How are you able to allow these agents to spend money on items without your knowledge? How do you know they're going to spend your money appropriately?
When you get comfortable with the technology, you realize that it is actually always trying to do what you asked, but you do need to be as specific as you'd like in your asks. So actually with the children's book, I built, also using AI, I built a website that's like my dream website for ordering children's books. And so my prompt for ordering books is always select something off that website based on what we're going to be doing that week or that month. Do we have a trip coming up? Are we doing a certain lesson? So in this case, I trust and know that the agent will be buying something that I already kind of have in my wheelhouse because it's from a website I built myself. So just like anything, you need to parameterize. Like it's almost like an employee. Like it needs some instruction to make sure it does what you'd like. But then every time I get one of these books, it's actually really quite delightful.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, not everyone is comfortable with artificial intelligence and the way that it's creeping in to our everyday lives. Obviously, you think it's changed your life for the better, but have you received any backlash? What would you say to people that are a little bit hesitant to embrace AI?
I think it's completely normal. This is effectively an intelligence that is not human. I would encourage people to actually try things themselves. The other thing I would encourage people to think about is a new technology is only as good as sort of the people using it. So if we'd all like to see new workflows that are inspirational to us, then we need to do the things we're passionate about. I'm passionate about homeschooling. I'm passionate about children's books. So I'm building AI that helps me with those things. I don't think that fear and not using a new technology necessarily helps it go in the right direction. So my view is jump in and use it on something that helps your daily life, and then we're all going to be a little less afraid about our new AI future.
Okay. All right. Jessie Janae, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. More on Clive Davis's incredible career and impact. I want to bring in Ben Cesario. He's a music reporter for the New York Times. Ben, thanks so much for joining me. You know, it's kind of hard to comprehend how many music legends that Clive Davis guided over the years. I mean, you've got Whitney Houston, Janis Joplin, Bruce Springsteen, Neil Diamond, Kelly Clarkson. The list just goes on and on. How is one person able to spot so much talent?
Well, one is just that he stayed in the business long past the age when other people might have retired. You know, he's still been active until very recently. And he really did have a knack for spotting talent and recognizing what made those people special. And he also liked to get involved in the making of the records, choosing the songs, choosing the producers that they would work with. He had a knack for doing that and for really striking gold sometimes.
Yeah, and maybe talk to me a little bit more about that, the actual very specific role he played in many of these artists' careers. You mentioned that he picked producers, helped work with the songs. How did he actually build some of these careers into what they became?
Well, sometimes, like with Bruce Springsteen, you know, he signed Bruce and was there for his first record. And his contribution there was when Bruce finished the album, that's Greetings from Asbury Park. You know, Clive said the sort of classic record company boss line. He said, "I don't hear a single. Go back and give me a single." And Bruce went back and did Blinded by the Light. And, you know, so sometimes it was just that bit of encouragement. But then there are stories like Whitney Houston, where he spent a couple of years combing through demo tapes of songs from songwriters for her debut album, looking for just the right song. And he put in that time, and it worked. You know, her debut album was a phenomenal success. And he really viewed that as a sort of project to sort of find the right songs, the right production, work very hard on it. And it worked beautifully at that time.
He had kind of his own different eras. There was, of course, the Columbia Records era. He launched his own label in Arista Records. He was also a chief creative officer at Sony. How do you think he changed the course of the music industry?
Well, in some ways, he was a throwback. He was kind of the last of the great moguls who stayed in the game. I think the way he changed it was by being kind of old-fashioned and like sticking with the artist and putting in that work. He was really known for getting deeply involved in the creative work, helping the artist do their best, choosing the songs, sending them back to the studio if he didn't feel like it was quite right. And, you know, that is something that has sort of gone out of style, but he had loyalty from his artists. When you'd go to his Grammy parties every year, the place was absolutely packed, and there were all of these artists that were singing his praises and thanking him for sort of sticking with them to do the work.
Mm-hmm. What an incredible icon. All right, Ben, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for watching Top Story. For Tom Llamas, I'm Ryan Nobles in Washington. Stay right there. More News Now is on the way.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.